Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, back at today with another fantasy football video. In today's video, I got the Week 13 waiver wire ads. Now, before I get into the Week 13 waiver wire ads and players that you guys can stash for the playoffs, let me give you guys a word from my sponsor, OverlayDFS.com. OverlayDFS.com is my favorite way to play daily fantasy football. Now, my favorite game on this website is the progressive game, where every single week, if the bonus does not get hit, the money keeps on rolling and rolling and rolling on until you eventually and someone hits that beautiful 12-0 to get that progressive bonus. As you can see here in the $22 game, which is the best game to play this week, if you go 12-0 and all those stars align, you can get over $8,000 winning in that game. Now, if you don't end up going that beautiful 12-0, don't you worry, because if you're in the top 10%, you get 9 times your buy-in at all levels. $2.5, you get $18. $22 entry, you get $180. And if you enter the $109 game and you hit that beautiful top 10%, you get 9 times your money at $900. Now, there's also another game with best record wins. You enter $11, the top 10% get $90, and that top prize, you get $100. So it's going to look beautiful on there right now. But obviously, that price is going to keep going up as more people join and enter. Pretty much, you're not even playing against anyone. You're pretty much just playing against yourself. You're playing against the board, and you got to make sure that you get just a good enough record to hit that money. Now, I'm going to explain how it necessarily works right here this week. Now I'm going to join the $22 game. Pretty much how it works, all you got to do is pick 12 of these players out of a huge selection of players, and plus 3 alternates. So you got to hit that beautiful 12-0 record to get that huge bonus, or obviously you can get 9-3 or 7-5. It's different every single week. That would make you hit that beautiful and get that 9 times your money. So one of the games here, and one of the strategies I like to do, is I like to go with Drew Brees over Russell Wilson here, and then I scroll down to the wide receivers, and I select Michael Thomas, because I'm going to be stacking my quarterback with my wide receiver. That is my favorite thing to do on this website. So make sure you guys check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. Goodbye, my friends. And we are back. Make sure to check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. Let's get right into the video. Week 13 waiver wire ads. Now, the first guy to add here is obviously Jonathan Williams, running back of the Indianapolis Colts. 23.8% ownership on NFL.com. All my figures for the ownership percentages are based off of NFL.com. Obviously, if you play on Yahoo, ESPN, etc., the ownership percentages are going to be slightly different. Now, Jonathan Williams looks to be the head honcho back in the Indianapolis backfield. Obviously, Jordan Wilkins is there, didn't do shit. Nyheim Hines was there, plays okay. Nyheim Hines is the pass-catching back. Jonathan Williams is the straight-up running back, the head honcho running back for running the ball through the goddamn ground. He's been running a train on these defenses the last 2 games where he has been pretty much the starter on the team. He's put up 2 strong performances in a row. Week 11 in relief of Marlon Mack, 13 attempts for 116 yards and 1 reception for 31 yards, which equated to 15.7 PPR points. Week 12 on Thursday night against the Houston Texans, 26 attempts for 104 yards and 1 touchdown, plus 3 receptions for 17 yards, 21.1 PPR points. So if you notice anything here, that's 100 fucking yards each game. Plus, he's getting a lot more attempts now, obviously, with Marlon Mack out, so it's going to be looking beautiful for Jonathan Williams. He would be my number 1 waiver wire burner for this week. He'd be my number 1 waiver priority, and is my number 1 waiver wire running back. Now, onto the second waiver wire running back to talk about here is Bo Scarbrough, running back of the Detroit Lions. He gets his go this week against the Chicago Bears on Thursday for Thanksgiving. 45.2% ownership on NFL.com. Now, he's the head honcho back on the Lions. Obviously, last week when I told you to pick him up, I said Ty Johnson, J.D. McKissick still may get a lot of work. It seems like Bo Scarbrough, clearly the head honcho there, getting a lot more touches and scoring the most points out of all of them, so that's why I like him better for fantasy football. He's put up 2 solid games in a row. Obviously, nothing like Mr. Jonathan Williams like we saw before, but still a serviceable back, especially in a deeper type of league. Week 11 against the Dallas Cowboys, 14 attempts for 55 yards and 1 tutty, 11.5 PPR points. And week 12 against the Washington Redskins, 18 attempts for 98 yards and 1 fumble, 7.8 PPR points. Given he didn't fumble, if he didn't end up fumbling in that game, he would have looked a lot better, near 10 points both games. So honestly, Bo Scarbrough is definitely a guy that you should be looking at on the waiver wire, especially if you're really hurt at the running back position. Next running back to talk about here is Darrel Williams, running back of the Kansas City Chiefs, 2.8% ownership on NFL.com. Now, arguably to me, he may be better than Bo Scarborough to pick up, but there are a lot of question marks with Darrel Williams. How much usage is he going to get? Are the other backs healthy around him? And if the other backs are healthy, if there's just like one back healthy, how is he going to perform and how long are they going to be out? Those are obviously questions you have to figure out yourself. Damian Williams is dealing with a rib injury. That can mean a lot of things. That can mean he misses a decent amount of time. Now, LeSean McCoy is not in the concussion protocol, but he has been on limited snaps, so it could honestly be a problem if LeSean McCoy is in there with Darrel Williams, but I still think that Darrel Williams will be getting a lot of touches, even if LeSean McCoy is healthy. Now, if Damian Williams is out, or if Damian Williams is in, I should say, then Darrel Williams to me is just an absolute waste of a pickup. But obviously that's the dice you're going to have to roll because we're probably not going to know too much today to figure out whether or not Darrel Williams will be the best pickup or not. Now, week 11, obviously, like I said, when Williams and McCoy got hurt in that game, Williams with the rib injury, obviously Damian Williams, not Darrel Williams, and then LeSean McCoy got put in the concussion protocol and just exited the game, but now he's no longer in the concussion protocol. So when they exited in that game in Mexico, week 11 against the LA Superchargers, 11 attempts for 35 yards and a touchdown, and 2 receptions for 8 yards, 12.3 PPR points. So it does look like he is going to be the head honcho back on that team if both of those guys are gone. I love Darrel Williams. If one of them are gone, I'm pretty excited about Darrel Williams. I think he could be great, but if they're both back, then Darrel Williams is going to be a wasted waiver wire pickup, and that's the dice you're going to be rolling with Darrel Williams this week. Now, next running back here is Jamaal Williams, running back of the Green Bay Packers, 50.8% ownership on NFL.com. Now, he has played well this season, averaging 12.2 PPR points. Now, when down in games, Jamaal Williams gets a lot more usage. He's obviously the pass catching back on the team. Even though Aaron Jones actually can catch the ball out of the backfield, it seems like Mr. LaFleur loves to throw the ball to Jamaal Williams. Now, he's played good 3 out of the last 4 games. Week 8 against the Kansas City Chiefs, 7 touches for 22 yards and 1 tutty, plus 3 receptions for 14 yards and a tutty, 18.6 PPR points. Week 9 against the LA Superchargers, 2 touches for 10 yards and 6 receptions for 39 yards and a touchdown, 16.9 PPR points. Week 10 was his bad game against the Carolina Panthers, 13 touches for 63 yards, 6.3 PPR points, but was still getting a decent amount of touches. They had a bye week 11 and week 12 on the comeback. This week against the San Francisco 49ers, or I should say last week, 11 touches for 45 yards and 7 receptions for 35 yards, 15 PPR points. Now, he really wasn't doing shit all game, but then they were getting down and getting down hard, and they just kept dumping it off to Mr. Jamaal Williams. So I think that Jamaal Williams will be getting a lot of usage in these games and is definitely worthy of a pickup. He's much more of a safer option, but just know if the Green Bay Packers eviscerate someone, Jamaal Williams may end up shitting the bed. Next, now onto the wide receivers. We got Deebo Samuel, my number 1 wide receiver pickup out of the San Francisco 49ers, 25% ownership on NFL.com. But before I get into the wide receivers, I'd like to tell you guys to please click that subscribe button down below if you have been enjoying thus far. Please knock one time on that thing for me. Let's get back into Deebo Samuel, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers. Like I said, 25.7% ownership on NFL.com. Now, even with Kittle and Sanders in the lineup, he performed. Obviously, Kittle balled out, but Deebo Samuel played well. But the thing to note is, though, it seemed like Emmanuel Sanders was much more of a decoy in that game with just 1 reception, not getting as many snaps as he normally gets. So that may hurt Deebo Samuel, but Deebo Samuel was still able to ball last week. He has had 3 good games in a row now. Week 10 against the Seattle Seahawks, 8 receptions on 11 targets for 112 yards, 19.2 PPR points. Week 11, his best game up against the Arizona Cardinals, 8 receptions on 10 targets for 134 yards, 21.4 PPR points. And week 12 against the Green Bay Packers, 2 receptions on 2 targets for 50 yards and 1 touchdown, 13 PPR points. So obviously, to me, him and the next guy I'm going to be talking about are my number 1 and number 2 waiver wire pickups for wide receiver. To me, Samuel may be much more of a dice roll, but I think he may be able to pay off more heavily than the next guy, and that guy's name is Devante Parker, wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins, 52.4% ownership on NFL.com, obviously owned in a bit more leagues than Emmanuel, I should say, than Mr. Samuel. So I like Mr. Devante Parker here, though, wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Miami Dolphins may not even be good, but it does not matter. Devante Parker's been averaging 12.7 PPR points per game, and you can easily see why here. Down here, he's been balling out of control. The beginning of his season was a bit more worse and a bit more erratic with Josh Rosen at the helm. Now, with Mr. Ryan Fitzmagic, he's been balling out of control. Week 4 against the LA Superchargers, 4 for 4, like at Wendy's for 70 yards and 1 tutty, 17 PPR points. Week 6, after their bye against the Washington Redskins, 3 of 4 for 28 yards and 1 touchdown, 11.8 PPR points. Week 7 against the Buffalo Bills, 5 of 10 for 55 yards and 1 touchdown, 16.5 PPR points. At Week 8 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he lost his 3-game streak of scoring touchdowns, but still had an okay game, 6 of 8 for 59 yards, 11.9 PPR points. Week 9 against the New York Football Jets, 4 of 6 for 57 yards and 1 touchdown, 15.7 PPR points. Week 10 against the Indianapolis Colts, 5 of 10 for 69 yards, nice, 11.9 PPR points. Week 11 against the Buffalo Bills, 7 of 10 for 135 yards and 20.5 PPR points. Week 12 against the Cleveland Browns, 6 of 11 for 91 yards, 15.1 PPR points. Obviously, like I said, I really do like Devontae Adams as well as Deebo Samuel. If I want to be safe, I would definitely go with Devontae Parker. But if you're feeling a bit risky, you're feeling a bit dangerous, Deebo Samuel, maybe the way that you want to look this week in fantasy football and for the future, obviously. Next is Cole Beasley, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, 8.1% ownership on NFL.com. Now, he's been super duper fucking consistent all year, averaging 11.6 PPR points in fantasy football. The number 2 option for Josh Allen, obviously the number 1 guy, is his love affair. Josh Allen loves John Brown, but he still could feed Cole Beasley. Last 3 week stats: Week 10 against the Cleveland Browns, 4 of 6 for 74 yards, 11.4 PPR points. Week 11 against the Miami Dolphins, 4 for 4 like at Wendy's for 38 yards, 7.8 PPR points. And Week 12, Denver Broncos, 6 of 9, nice, for 76 yards and 1 touchdown, 19.6 PPR points. So Cole Beasley is obviously even more safe than Devontae Parker, but Devontae Parker has been really just balling out of control, so I don't think you can really deny that. Cole Beasley obviously is going to be a guy that is the wide receiver 2 on the team, so you have to temper your expectations due to that, but the Buffalo Bills like to throw the ball so much that I think there's no reason why Cole Beasley can't be worthy of a pickup this week. Now on to the next wide receiver to talk about here is N'Keal Harry, wide receiver of the New England Deflatriots, 8.5% ownership on NFL.com. Now the New England Patriots were playing against the Dallas Cowboys this week, or last week I should say, in the rain, so the passing game was not all that much on point. He has played 2 games for N'Keal Harry, has played 2 games this season, and while he has not looked amazing, any receiver that is going to be getting looks on the New England Patriots is worth a stash to me. Obviously, for weeks, people were talking about starting all those other New England wide receivers. People talking about Mohamed Sanu. So why not stash N'Keal Harry and see how he plays in games, obviously, where it's not super fucking rainy. Obviously, his stats are not the best. Like I said, Week 11 against the Philadelphia Eagles in his debut, 3 receptions on 4 targets for 18 yards, 4.8 PPR points. Week 12 against the Dallas Cowboys, he only caught 1 ball on his 4 targets for 10 yards, but he finally scored his first NFL touchdown, 8 PPR points. Now, he's only played 2 games this year. He was pretty much on IR all season. But with that said, even if he's coming in late, he could be a guy that Tom Brady likes to throw the ball to later in the season, and this could bode well to be quite the guy to have in the fantasy football playoffs and potentially in your fantasy football championship. Now, next wide receiver and the final wide receiver is a bit of a gamble, and his name is Russell Gage, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons, only owned in 0.2% of leagues on NFL.com. Now with Sanu now gone, as well as Hooper, Gage could be a solid pickup. Now he's risky. You want to know why? You're relying on a terrible Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons offense looked like they were going to fucking blow the shit out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after looking so hot for 2 games in a row, but the cannons were being fired for famous Jameis in that game, and the Atlanta Falcons ended up getting smacked up. Knock one time if you're with me. And Matt Ryan got to sit on the pine and watch Matt Schaub go to work. Now, week 12 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he still played great. It didn't fucking matter. 8 receptions on 10 targets for 76 yards, 15.6 PPR points. Now, to me, he is much more of a dice roll. He's much more of a bomb you're throwing in your lineup. You're saying, fuck it, I'm throwing him in there. If he scores and plays well like this, you're going to be getting like 15, 20 points. But if he does terrible, you're going to need your Huggies because he's going to shit the bed big time for you. He's much more of a risk, but like I said, he's still worthy of a pickup in fantasy football, especially in a super deep league. Now onto the tight ends. If you guys have enjoyed thus far, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. The first tight end to talk about here, not the final, there's one more after this, is Jack Doyle, tight end of the Indianapolis Colts, 28.7% ownership on NFL.com. Now, the Colts have lost Eric Ebron to the IR, so it should be Jack Doyle time in Indianapolis. Now, he should be a tight end 1 the rest of the season. I see no reason why he can't be a top 12 guy all year. He only averages 7.1 PPR points, so obviously that's not something that looks like an amazing stat, but that's with Ebron. Now that Ebron is gone and taken out of the equation, Jack Doyle should be able to ball out the next couple of games, even if Indianapolis looks to be a run-first team. Now, onto the final tight end here is Ryan Griffin, Mr. Sticky Hands, tight end of the New York Football Jets, 8.5% ownership on NFL.com. Now, with Chris Herndon gone onto that IR, just like Jack Doyle, Ryan Griffin has been filling into those shoes and molding into those shoes quite well. In his last 5 games, Week 8 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 4 for 4, like at Wendy's for 66 yards and 2 tutties, 24.6 PPR points. Week 9 against the Miami Dolphins, 6 of 8 for 50 yards, 11 PPR points. Week 10, shit the bed against the New York Football Giants, 1 of 1 for -2 yards, 0.8 PPR points. But Week 11, he did come back and bounce back against the Washington Redskins, 5 of 5 for 109 yards and 1 touchdown, 21.9 PPR points. So Week 12, he had a down game in comparison to some of those games in the past. Obviously not as bad as Week 10 against the Giants. Week 12 against the Oakland Raiders, 3 for 3 for 13 yards and a touchdown, 10.3 PPR points. So you can't complain with the touchdown production from Ryan Griffin. 1, 2, 3, 4 touchdowns for him in the last 5 games. So not too shabby for Ryan Griffin. I like him for the rest of the season. Sammy Mono, aka Sammy Darnold, aka Kid C Ghost, clearly loves to target the tight end position. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If at any point you ended up enjoying, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. Thank you guys so much for enjoying all these videos. I know we are getting near the end of the season, and that may be a bit sad for you if you have enjoyed watching my videos, and that really does mean a lot to me. Just make sure to check out overlaydfs.com. We're going to knock one time and hit you all into the playoffs. Let's eat some W's this week. I love each and every single one of you guys. Don't you ever forget that. Have a blessed rest of your Tuesday. I'll be back on Wednesday with about 3,000 videos upon your head top. Have a great day, my friends. Goodbye.